New working.
All I ever wanted was for her to love herself just a little, because see, the rest she would have gotten from me. I remember the glazed look in the third eye while the other two mirrored the sky purple haze. It always amazed me how she thought that stuff didn't faze me. I remember hanging my clothes out the window just so the stench of my own house wouldn't engage me. I remember not breathing. I remember not breathing like I remember teething, painful. The smoke was so faint, was so potent. I remember her choking. I remember me coping. Hell, still coping. I remember her smoking. Shame. See, I remember Cain being a name to this fable, only not quite a fable, quite real. I don't even think it's a band-aid big enough to erase the pain I used to always feel when I looked at her face. When I looked at her face, man, when I looked at her face, I saw me. Wow. Multiplied by weed, divided by her second seed, who's much younger than me, but that still made 3.
You know, you remember the days when Oprah Winfrey was on the air?
Oh, all right.
Her original show was called AM Chicago.
Right, yeah.
She got so big, they called it the Oprah Winfrey Show. We need to drop Windy City Live and call it the Val Warner Show. Yeah! We watch for you!
Thank you, Art.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank all of you guys. No, seriously, thank you so much for keeping Windy City Live on the air for 5 years. I know it's your support, your prayers, your viewership. I don't take it for granted. This is why I'm here tonight. This is the best part of my job, is I'm talking to you through the TV, but when I get to see you in person, that makes it even better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will tell Ryan G and all of Chicago I was hanging with the Qs on Saturday night.
Oh! Let me ask you this.
Can I bark? No, I can't bark.
Because we all have opportunities to serve. Manhood, scholarship, perseverance, uplift. Sometimes you feel like you're trying to uplift by yourself. But I thank God that I am privileged to be a part of an extraordinary fraternity with indomitable fortitude that can't help but to make its mark on the world. And for that, my brothers, that friendship is essential to my soul.
God is able through the 7 days. Thank you, Omega, for making me feel like $1 million, as broke as I am.
Valley Kingdom Ministry International is in the house. Come on, lovely wife and queen of 36 years now. Thank God for you. I always like to leave on a very positive note, and the positive note I would like to leave with my beloved brothers. I've been Omega Man now 43 years. I would like to just to share with you to stay with the OOM. What is the OOM? The original Omega Man. I give deference to our founders, but the original Omega Man is Revelation 22:13, where he says, I am the Alpha. He started off being the Alpha, but he couldn't stop that. He said, I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I believe that somewhere in that room that our founders were spiritually charged and they were spiritually inspired. When they said friendship is essential to the soul, I believe that the original Omega Man was there to remind them greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friend. Even with the 4 cardinal principles, You know, it's dangerous giving a preacher a mic on a Saturday. The 4 cardinal principles of manhood. I believe that the original mega man was there because he said, what is man that thou art so mindful of him? For scholarship, study to show thyself approved. A workman not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Perseverance, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. Then uplift. How can we not forget uplift? When it says, if you be faithful, I will give you a crown of life. And so to the men of Omega, we got a great future ahead of us. We can do great things even in our generation. God bless you, but stay with the original Omega man. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wow. There you go. Hey, but you played one on TV. From time to time.
Brother Bobby Langer is here chronicling this event. Thank you for this and for everybody else. I really do know that I'm giving short shrift to people who deserve a great amount of attention. And I want to thank, of course, Brother Art Norman for being as well. I know that there's a lot of festivities and a lot of things that everybody wants to get to, so I will promise you I will keep my remarks down. But in the words of Adam Clayton Powell Jr., I will try to fashion them like a woman's skirt. Long enough to be respectable, but short enough to be interesting. It is only proper that tonight we discuss a little bit about the founders and the environment in which they found themselves 104 long years ago, which have stood the test of time for that long amount of time. What was going on at that time? And how does that reflect upon what we're doing here 104 years later? What are those core principles that we talk about? Manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Why was in 1911 it important that a fraternity formed and founded that, but also want to bring that to the current day? I think sometimes we get stuck in the past. And frequently, a lot of us look at Omega Psi Phi as a destination, as opposed to what I think it really is, which is a vehicle to get us to where the organization should be going and what it is that we should be doing to evolve to answer these very pertinent and in some cases very vital questions that need to be answered today. In light of that, I would also like to take a brief moment to acknowledge the victims of the Paris attack and to extend our sympathies and our friendship to a country who made it a point when 9/11 happened to say that they were all Americans. Je suis américain, they said. Well, I think tonight we should all be in mind, I think that we are also Parisians. But also I want to say that there are many, many people who every day, through the actions of the United States and its military, are victimized by drones and who feel that they have been neglected and who have not been paid attention to, and sometimes have to act out in such a way that this sometimes is the only way that they feel that they can be heard. I think that we as black people primarily tonight know something a little bit about that. Right now in the United States of America, the most drug-addicted state happens to be Vermont. Vermont is 99% white or something. Throughout the United States of America, heroin has become the #1 addiction. People are now paying attention to it, whereas our people have been addicted and have been in trouble for some time. But we're going to get to the present in a minute. I just want to go back a little bit and talk about the conditions that were happening in 1911. You know, when I was in Italy, I was doing a movie there. It was called Titus. It's a Shakespeare movie. And when I would go and have dinner, sometimes they would talk, there was a question that you would ask the waiter. You would say, how is this dinner composed? And in Italian, you say, come composto questo piatto? How is this plate formed? What is it? What are the ingredients that went into making this plate? Well, the ingredients that I want to talk about are manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. But even among the intellectual ideas that represents, there were 4 founders, 4 men, 3 of them undergraduate men, 3 young men, 3 young brothers, who looked around and said to themselves, "There's something missing." Now, in 1906, the first black fraternity was formed, Alpha Phi Alpha, at Cornell University. A little bit earlier, in 1911, Kappa Alpha Psi was formed at Indiana State University. Why were those people concerned about these ingredients and their core principles in different formations? I like to think about it in a certain way, philosophically. One of my favorite philosophers is Aristotle, and he came up with this idea of teleology. The word telos, I know there are many great men of letters here tonight, means intention, the aim. What is the end in mind? Well, the teleology of a fraternity and a sorority and these organizations is really, to me, that through collective action, we can have a greater impact to address the needs that are current than we could if we were just individuals. I happen to have been sitting with the most remarkable woman at my table just now. Her name is Tamar Manasseh. She is the founder and the leader of a nonprofit. Tamar, if you would be kind enough to say, I just want to talk a little bit about you. Please stand up for just a second. She's here and she's planning. Thank you. She's planned her cousin's surprise birthday party, but she found it fitting that as we honor her tonight, that she would be in our presence. And she runs a nonprofit organization which addresses the very urgent needs that many of our people in the communities of Chicago are dealing with today. I hope that you get a chance to meet her a little bit and to know what she's doing. You're going to hear a little bit more about her in a while. But I want to talk a little bit about, frankly, what it is that fraternities can do. Because we had a very brief conversation as to Tamara's of the opinion that when you want something done, you should do it yourself. And she's going about doing it. Our organization is growing. We believe it might be 1,000 people strong. Omega Psi Phi has hundreds of thousands of members strong. Doesn't take that many, brothers. We have a saying, I won't get into the details of it, but we don't need a whole lot of us to have a great impact like this individual is having. But what was happening in 1911? This is right before the Second World War was about to start. This is an organization that was formed, Omega Psi Phi, in many ways is kind of martial. You deal with many of our people are men of service. They've joined the armed service. I see a brother here tonight who is wearing his dress blues. But it was designed to condition men for leadership. If you look at a fraternity, or if you look indeed at the Pan-Hellenic Council writ large, it is for people who have some degree of privilege. Many of them come from some degree, relatively speaking, of wealth or money. They're in college. A lot of our people are not able to afford to go to colleges and so forth. But these are men who were thinking along the lines of what W.E.B. Du Bois was thinking about when he formed the idea of the talented 10. Not everyone is capable of being a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Right. We don't seek members. Correct? Men seek Omega. And they seek Omega because it falls along the trajectory, it falls along the vectors of what they believe, or what we believe, are the most efficient ways of addressing the concerns of our people as a whole. If you go back in time and you think about fraternities as having a root and a kind of religious beginning, the teleology, for example, of the Levites. The Levites were a tribe that was formed by one of the sons of Jacob, Levi, who was a hothead. His father chastised him for his anger, for his passion. But later, when Moses came along, he knew that in order to protect the presence of God on earth, the Ark of the Covenant, that only a certain people could carry that ark. There's a person that we talk about called Ozzie, who touched it at the wrong time, fell, and God struck him dead. David didn't like that so much. Named the place where he fell, and just to remind God that you shouldn't have done this to this man, but God did it because his ways are not our ways. But the Levites still were tasked with a sacred duty, a sacred honor that not everyone was conditioned to carry out. If you go further and you look into the Middle Ages, you think about people like the Knights Templar. Yesterday was Friday the 13th. We believe that Friday the 13th, that has now come to be known as the Knights Templar, a day that many of them were killed while they were about their task, their holy and divine task of really being the protective body of the church. Everybody couldn't belong to the Knights Templar. Everybody can't belong to Omega Psi Phi. Right. I think sometimes, brothers, I just want to just get real with you for a second. I am 3 years in the fraternity, and I can teach you precious little about the practices and the principles and the traditions of Omega Psi Phi. I know nothing that you don't. When I joined, I was a 48-year-old man. I remember my good friend who got me into Theta Kappa Kappa asked me, he said, man, what do you want to do? What are you doing? You're an old man going through this process for some reason. And I said, you know, all my life, I wanted to be an Omega Psi. And it's the truth. If I may, I want to acknowledge my beautiful sister, Harry Lennix, who is here. Lori was 1979 Baker's Dozen. She was the anchor for one of the last lines of the Q Pearls. She was number 13. Blood and Pipe Band of Chappaqua, Illinois State University. And she came home one day, brothers, and she said to me, she said, I need you to help me learn these Greek alphabet. I said, the what? I was 14 or something, 13. And so we started reciting, and she started telling me about these young men at her campus who were doing things in 1979. And I learned a lot about the history of the fraternity then. And I started thinking about that. And I started thinking about why 3 undergraduates, not at that time, I was too young to be thinking. But I started, as an older man, I started thinking, why would 3 undergraduates seek out the counsel of a professor, a biologist, a zoologist, a psychologist, a genius man, Ernest Everett Just? I happen to know a fair amount about him. Grown man, because they were thinking that we as a young group of men, a group of young men, need to look to our older brothers for guidance. And I look at here, these 10 chapters represented tonight, and I see a lot of people who got a lot of achievement as individuals. Most of, I think, the achievements that Omega Psi Phi and many other fraternities, most of the achievements are individual achievements. And we point to people like Percy Julian and Whitney Young, all the people who were Greek letter organization, Pan-Hellenic Council. And I think that there is too little, frequently, brothers, too little give and take between undergraduate and graduate. It's not new. This, if you will, binary division has happened for a long time. But we as older people now, I don't need to say old, we as mature men need to seek out more to be of assistance and to be of guidance for our younger brothers. And I would say also that the young men at the undergraduate chapters have an obligation and a duty to seek our counsel. But when I was a school teacher many, many years ago, I would get very angry sometimes at some of the students. I was in elementary school and they would act out, Brother Rod, how are you tonight? Good to see you. And I would say to my principal, Mrs. Gilly, I said, Mrs. Gilly, this kid did X, Y, and Z. I'm angry enough to bite the head off a nail. She said, Mr. Lennix, I'm sure you're right, but one of you has to be the adult. That's pretty simple. So there's a lot of adults in this room, and we are at a particular time in this country's history where a lot of our young people are under siege. And so rather than being stuck on Omega as a destination, this is some letters that you get, you walk around, you do some hops every year, and so forth. Then really it should be us being about the business of preparing these young men and women for leadership. It's not that much easier now than it was then. Certain few of us have some privileges and some opportunities that some of us may not have had back 100 and some years ago when this organization was founded. But it's in our duty to try to factionalize ourselves and distinguish ourselves from our brothers and sisters, or to try to lift up. That's the fourth principle, brother. Is uplift. But once you've attained a certain position, then it is your duty to bring up those behind you. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the time to remind ourselves of what our sacred duty is has never been more vital than it is now, when you can get killed on camera with no consequences whatsoever. And we go along, and there's I won't mention the name of the sorority, but there was a sorority out there recently that said, when you were taking part in this Black Lives Matter stuff, we don't want you representing the letters of the sorority out there. And I thought to myself, man, that's a shame. That's a shame. I don't want to say that. I didn't say that. But now, that's a position. They maybe had their opinion. I wasn't in the room when that decision was made. But there's never been a time more urgent than now when leadership, particularly at the college level, is called for and more important than now. Brothers and sisters, I want to make you aware that tonight in our audience, at my invitation, I am honored to introduce you, if you do not know him, to a man of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity who is a founding member of the National Pan-Hellenic Council. Brother Ozzie E, will you please? There he is right here. This brother had an opportunity today to be at a chapter meeting. But when I told him I wanted to discuss these matters today and to talk about what role Omega and the Pan-Hell have today, he put that aside to be in our presence. It's one of the tools of this fraternity. I did a little bit of studying, brother, on it. And I just also want to remind you that some of our founders, a couple of them, were at Howard University, were thinking about joining an organization. They had some engagement with Alpha Phi Alpha, but thought at the time that they could be a better service for that university, for those particular needs, in that particular way. The principles, however, that all of the Greek letter organizations have founded. My sister's Sigma Gamma Rho, her marching orders are service, sisterhood, and scholarship. Sound familiar? Do we have something in common? Alpha Phi Alpha has scholarship in there. Manhood, upliftment. The principles of these organizations must remain the same. The times change, brothers, but the principles never should. The great honor that I've had in being for 3 years now in Omega have begun to redound very visibly for me. As I say, I can't teach any of you about these principles. Many of you are men of great accomplishment. I am proud to be in your ranks, but I'm also duly proud to have been asked on behalf of the Grand Basilisk, Dr. Ray, through Brother Leon Pearson, who is the Grand Chaplain, to take part in the 2016 Grand Marshal, thank you. To take part in the 2016 Grand Conclave in Las Vegas. And the marching orders there really, I don't know if I'm going to be on the program, but the Grand Basileus wanted to leave a lasting impact in the community where the conclave is going to be taking place. His marching orders are for social justice. What we've decided to do, and I want to make you all aware because I want to engage each of the 10 chapters here in this process. But we are going to go to a prison, a federal prison, which one of the brothers is a custodian of, what do they call it, a warden. Okay. And we're going to go there, and we want to engage the brothers who are going to be released soon. So many of our people yes. So many of our brothers are in prison for nonviolent drug offenses, as the United States builds more prisons than it builds schools, as they privatize these prisons, and as we give them a pipeline to feed them as many prisoners. It costs something like $40,000 a year to house one prisoner. Many of them shouldn't be there. Didn't do anything wrong except for fall victim to the very essence of being black in America at the wrong time and the wrong place. I don't know what the right time was to be black in America. But a lot of these people are now find themselves on the precipice of being released. I was encouraged by the president's action of releasing some 6,000 prisoners soon, who are nonviolent prisoners and offenders, drug addicted, many of them, and they're going to be coming out soon. So the Grand Basileus decided, and let's talk about it, I think this is great, that we should go and talk to these brothers. And when they come out, maybe, just maybe, Omega Psi Phi, Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Betas, Delta Sigma, all of the Greek letterings can be of some assistance and to be a catch for these people who are coming out. So I have proposed that we adopt somebody that is coming into the district who might soon be released from prison so that we can provide them with the kind of infrastructure that they will be needing to navigate their way in this very curious time where the conditions have largely remained the same, but the language that we use and the way we view race in America have changed and evolved and have become more sophisticated and more tricky. So I hope that you will join me in that effort, and I hope that we can reach a lot of our brothers who have fallen to the wayside, who are members of Omega Psi Phi. It has been very often mentioned recently that reclamation, getting members who are not by way of hands, please. How many lifetime members of Omega Psi Phi are there? Before I make my closing remarks, I want to become fully transparent with all of you. I joined 3 years ago, and I realized recently that I am not financial. I tried, I called the national offices. It's only a couple days. But I promise you, by this time you see me next year, I'll be fully funded out. In fact, I plan to become a lifetime member because right now. Well, let's do it right now. That's right. We can do what we need to do today. But I did make a call. The point being that I would love to reclaim some of those brothers who might be wasting away in one of those prisons. Somebody who may have gone through the process of becoming an Omega Psi Phi. If they're not in prison and they're just hanging out in Chicago, and they aren't active, they're not financial, not engaged, not involved, that we also reclaim our brothers. So, and I know that that's not just on my mind, I know it's on the mind of the fraternity as a whole. And I just want to leave you with one last thing, just talking about the fact not that we're seeking more membership. I don't think Omega needs more members, really. We need more men. We need better membership, I think, or we can all improve ours. I'm speaking about myself. I'm in no position to talk about something somebody else is doing, but we all need to get busy because the time is now. So I will leave you with a little bit. I'm an actor, I can't help it. I gotta do a little bit here. In the play, Henry V, there's a kind of very interesting speech that Shakespeare uses. He talks about St. Crispin's Day. And if you can substitute St. Crispin's Day for Founders Day, I think that you'll see its relevance to Omega Psi Phi. But they're about to go into battle with the French, the English are. And somebody is overheard saying, I wish that we had 1 in every 10,000 of those men in England who is now asleep. I wish that they could fight with us because we're outnumbered here. And Henry V overhears this and he says, who's that wishes so? He says, that's my cousin Westmoreland. He said, no, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. If to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. We would not die in that man's company who fears his fellowship to die with us. He said, today is called the Feast of Crispin's Day. He that shall live this day and come safe home shall stand a tiptoe when the day is named and rouse him at the name of Crispin. He that shall live this day and see old age shall yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispin's Day. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on Crispin's Day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot, but he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Westmoreland and Talbot, Warwick and Gloucester, shall in his flowing cups be freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and the Founders' Day shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so base. This day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day! Hey, I won't be doing my day job. I appreciate you all. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless Omega Psi Phi.
We were instrumental in making it happen. And so this year is consistent with what we had going 4 or 5 years ago. Brother Art Norman, Brother Mike Ward, God, these brothers, these brothers were instrumental in what we now have. I want to say that, brothers. We didn't have anything like this until we started doing this program about 5 years ago. And so I appreciate the fact that you brothers think enough of me to ask me to come up and be honored at this point. I don't know what else to say, brothers. Thank you, my brothers.
You're on the right. All right. And I want you to insert your name after I. I do solemnly swear. That I shall uphold. Defend and protect the Constitution. Bylaws. Rules and regulations. Of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.